Welcome back to the Crypto Power Hour, the number one crypto show on Rumble, of course, powered by our friends over at Solum Global, with your hosts, George Ballantine and myself, Lance Miliaccio. We're the Crypto Bros, and this is your ultimate deep dive into everything crypto, blockchain, and decentralized finance. Doesn't matter whether you're a seasoned investor or a newbie just stepping into the world of digital assets for the very first time. We're going to bring you expert insights, top interviews, exciting new projects, breaking news, and game-changing innovation shaping the future of digital finance. Because on this show, of course, in crypto, we trust. George B., what's up, man? 7 a.m. a Wednesday morning. How are you, bro? Rise and grind as usual.
It's hump day, right? Hump day, yeah, it's Wednesday. Yeah, you know what? It's hump week for our single guys, but ain't nothing going on because I don't go out. But anyway, just another day, another dollar. I'd rather be another day, another Bitcoin, though, for me. If someone want to send me some, I'm sure I'll be happy to take it.
Exactly. And of course, you've got an opportunity to do that. We're connected to the Rumble wallet. So, of course, if you want to send us, 5 or 10 Bitcoin, feel free to do so. We'll take any crypto. Of course, that's all part of it here on Rumble. And don't forget to check out Rumble Premium while you're doing that. You can get it now with Perplexity. So if you're paying for Perplexity elsewhere, and you might be able to sign up and get the package deal, cancel your other subscription and get over here and join and get that Rumble Premium to support our friends over at Rumble. Because, of course, the true free speech platform. Lots going on. We're excited. We're going to be joined by the founder of Solum Global. You've seen him as a co-host on this show. We've been grinding out, but he's been so busy. It's been a minute before we got him back on. We'll have him in here in a minute. But before we kick it off, of course, we love our crypto, but we also love our gold and silver. What am I talking about? I'm talking about these babies, the Prepper Bar, the 62.2 gram Prepper Bar, perforated and easily broken down in your choice of 3 separate denominations. You can see when I tilt it, it's very easy to break off a small piece. You really want to have to walk around with a pair of tin snips and a silver or gold coin, chopping off edges of it to make a payment when it's ever for less than that. Of course, at these prices, you're going to need a solution. And it doesn't matter whether it's for asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its very unique utility for barter and trade. Prepper Bar is a perfect gift for everybody. At the end of the day, sock drawer, underwear drawer, safety deposit box. Keep them wherever you can get to them because, of course, at $40 trillion in debt, Federal Reserve Bank is still in charge of us. Listen, I don't know what the fix is, but so far the administration hasn't figured it out. You better have a backup plan, and that's what the Prepper Bar is all about. Head over to thebigmigbar.com, thebigmigbar.com. Let them know that the Big Mig Show sent you. Of course, you can call them at 888-526-7154, 888-526-7154. And again, head over there, go there after the show. We got a lot to cover today. You got to get caught up with Solum Global. They have got an amazing amount of new information for you guys. They're blowing up, which we're excited about. All right. Well, listen, we're excited. Kirk St. John's, you've seen him on the show before. He's the founder and CEO of Solum Global. Of course, they're a transparent digital network bridging cryptocurrencies and real-world assets through blockchain. He's a pioneer in the crypto space since 2014, an early-stage adopter. He has over 25 years of technology innovation experience and frequently serves as a keynote speaker on digital finance and blockchain solutions. Let's get him in here. No reason to leave him backstage. Kirk St. John's, how are you, my brother?
I'm doing very good, Lance. It's great to be back in the studio. Great to see you guys. Hope everything's going good for you there today.
Yeah, we're excited. The show's been doing really well. We've been very fortunate. We're the number one crypto show based on views on Rumble, as you know. Thanks to you guys and thanks to the hard work of George producing a top quality show. We're trying to do everything we can to grow the show. And of course, Solum Global, you guys have been a big part of that. We appreciate the support and sponsorship you're doing this through this entire time period. It's been a great relationship, but we're super excited about what's going on. But before we get into this, I got to jump in here for the audience. The fate of Kirk St. John's is in your hands. Your votes, he has committed himself that your votes may finally make a decision. George and I have been trying to get him to do a makeover, kind of lift the entire game. He has pushed back as hard as he possibly can. A lot of his justification has been around some of the leaders of other companies, leadership in the crypto world. Of course, lots of eccentric individuals, lots of different looks. But but I'm going to throw this into the audience's hand. Whatever decision you make for Kirk St. John's, this is it. We're throwing the gauntlet down. So I'm going to show you the makeover when we get done. But these individuals up here, you just saw David Schwartz from XRP, the CTO, developer, early stage developer in Bitcoin. And then SBF, of course, he went through some not great stuff, but of course, his look was well known for, I would say, his disheveled appearance. He made many appearances where people would talk about it. Of course, his company back then was worth billions, might have been continued to be worth billions had the Fed not gotten involved, but they did. He's now sitting in a federal prison. But Kirk, has rolled with this, I call it conspiracy Santa. Some people say he looks like Poseidon. I'm not sure. George has had his own opinion on it. Now, before we go to what we think the makeover should be, you guys, while you're in the chat, you can let us know. Do you think Kirk's current look, he should stick with it, keep with the long beard, keep the look the way he's got it, kind of a Scandinavian Viking? I don't know, Kirk, what do you call this look? You must have a name for it. I don't want to just give them some kind of...
Yeah, no, I don't have a particular call for it, but yeah, I mean, I'm of Danish origin, and when you let your beard grow out and your hair come out, it's curly blonde, white. I've had people call me Saint Nick. I've heard Moses. I had two kids driving by. I was walking down towards the beach, and they yelled, "I didn't know they let the Unabomber out of jail." So I get all kinds of stuff for it, but there is a subset of people that like the look. I can't go out anywhere without someone, saying something to me. So it's been doing me well. But next, what I'm doing now, by the way, I don't know when the last time I was on, but first time seeing myself recently this close up on a camera, and my hair is getting longer. So next time I'm on the show, it might be down around my shoulders.
Or it might not, because if the audience votes, we've got you locked in. This is a commitment to the audience here. They've been loyal. I think they should be able to make the call when it comes to the moving forward. But George, any comments before we show the makeover of what we would like Kirk to do, what we think represents his intellect and his persona as leadership at Solum Global? George, anything?
So what are you saying? His beard right now doesn't represent his intellect? Is that what you're saying?
I have my own beliefs.
That's what it sounds like.
Look, it doesn't make me right. Look at me. I'm follicularly challenged. I can't even make any comments about other people's hair.
Look, you want to have a long beard? Fine, have a long beard. But get some product, comb it, and clean it up a little bit. It's not that hard. You trim the little edges, the dead, like you have long hair, you got to trim the dead end so it grows better. That's it. It's not that difficult. You might get a result looking like this, Lance. Who's that guy next to him?
I get in the ocean, in the pool, in the shower probably 3 or 4 times a day. So it is clean. We
don't want excuses.
Can't even find a piece of rice in there. I tried to get a piece of bacon, but I couldn't find that. So everything was good. But let's see. What do you... Oh, my Lord.
This is what I have tried to convince Kirk to do, is to go with maybe a special forces length beard, trim it up. This is reminiscent, of course, of Peaky Blinders. I felt like it was a kind of a persona, kind of like old school, maybe even some rock and roll vibes. There were some other, images I created that I had sent over to him. I'd like to see this look. I think it's iconic. I think it fits his persona. I think it fits the representation of the company. So for the audience, you make the call: Conspiracy Santa or this cleaner version of a Kirk St. John's. I like to call it the Peaky Blinder look.
He could even go a little longer than that. It's as long as it's just cleaned up and trimmed out right. That's
and I would accept longer. I think the audience,
you said operators' beards are longer than that.
Well, some of the operators are. Again, I kind of gave him a little bit of room when I made these images. We actually passed these around with other leadership in Kirk over in Solum Global. Everybody gave a resounding yes to this look. They said absolutely. He was on his way to Davos. I said, look, man, roll in there, do it like this, surprise everybody, throw down the gauntlet, make some moves. Now, this is me. Listen, maybe I'm wrong. You guys are going to make the call. Kirk is committed to whatever the audience decides. Well, you get in the chat, you let us know in the comments. Is it the Peaky Blinders look, or is he going with Rogue Viking?
Hold on a second. I saw something before I came into the studio that you guys are using Smartmatic to tally these votes.
Yeah, no, I would, and if that was true, I would be extremely concerned because, of course,
So wait a minute. So you're ready, because you know what the answer is going to be. The people are going to say, no, clean it up, trim it up. So you're ready saying the fix is in.
No,
so you're going to go against your word?
I'm saying that people are going to say what they say to me on the street. You know how many guys with beards like that have come up to me and said, I wish I could grow a beard like yours. So
well,
there's a lot of people that like
there are a lot of schools of thought. Now, of course, maybe they don't know that you're representing what I would consider a cutting edge tech company. You're right. There are people in the tech world that just roll with whatever they feel like. Of course, a lot of those companies are worth billions of dollars. Yep. XRP, billions and billions of dollars. Yeah. FTX at its heyday, billions and billions of dollars. Yeah. So I guess you've got to go. But again, we've thrown the outcome to the audience.
All right, let's see.
So we will see what the audience has to say. You guys let us know in the chat, in the replies, in the comments. Get in there, leave a comment, and let us know. Are we going with Peaky Blinders, or are we going with I guess Poseidon, Conspiracy Santa? Unabomber, anything you want to call it. You come up with the
got my old profile picture from LinkedIn back in the day when I was a clean-cut corporate executive in Seattle. You ought to throw that up so they can see the before and after.
I don't like you without a beard.
I know, but
I told you all along that I like the beard.
I just would like the audience to see the journey, because what you'll see here, if George finds it, it's pre-Bitcoin, and this is post-Bitcoin. Okay, I thought you were searching. No, that's all right.
All right. Well, let's dig in. We got a lot to cover. We'll get past the beard right now. It's your fate is in the hands of the audience. We'll see what the outcome is, because of course we already know what the leadership at Solum Global. We already knew what the choice they made.
Polymarket's coming in at 80%. That the people are going to say yes, but Kirk's not going to do. He's going to back out.
Oh man, that's not good. Polymarket, they're usually pretty well as a prediction market.
No.
But sometimes you got.
I will let you know, Kirk. Kirk, I will let you know. Me and Lance will do a follow-up, and we will let everybody on this show know what the results are of the voting and what happens if you do it or not, if you're a man of your word or not. I'm just saying. Just letting you know.
We'll go with the outcome. Let's dig in. Of course, Solum Global, for you guys out there, they've been kindly enough. They've been the main sponsor of this show for a long period of time since its inception. It's been great and amazing. We've been very excited. And of course, they've been grinding away behind the scenes. So for you guys that don't know who they are, of course, they're kind of the future of digital finance. They've got a healthcare, and they're now on the ICP, the Internet Computer Protocol blockchain. They're offering a fully decentralized platform for storing, trading, and transferring digital currencies and real-world assets, including gold, with immediate, transparent settlement. And of course, their flagship solution, they've got the Solum wallet with the SGUSD stablecoin, an AI-powered electronic health wallet. Of course, that's going to streamline. And of course, we know this. Healthcare needs some streamlining. I mean, wow. Talk about the debacle across this country, the Medicaid, Medicare fraud, the insurance fraud. And this is the solution. This is U.S. healthcare payments are going to by replacing slow, inefficient revenue cycle processes. Great for doctors, a way to get their money immediately, not waiting through this nasty insurance system where they wait forever. And of course, it's going to be on-chain smart contracts. Kirk, so much has happened that I'm sure George and I have no idea really how far along you guys are. You've now got this EHR sovereign health cloud. Yep. So maybe take it, and I think I'd give us an A to Z, because I have to be honest, I think George and I have done it. I'll speak for myself. I've done a piss poor job of being able to translate all the things you've been telling me behind the scenes to the audience. And we've had a lot of people ask about it. What's going on with them? Also, what's the future of investing in Solum, maybe, yada, yada. So take it from the top.
Yeah, no, I can, for the folks that followed along, the first thing we did was, we got together, we wanted to help people, have a wallet on their phone, on their laptop PC, so they could access crypto, buy it, sell it, trade it, send it. And then we moved into the phase where we rolled out our stable coin. So for the, most of the audience probably knows that, but for folks that don't, a stable coin and ours is a US dollar backed stablecoin. So it's a crypto that's always worth $1. It never goes up, it never goes down. And it makes it easier to transact a regular commerce transaction of any kind, right? So we always compare that to Bitcoin, because if you're selling stuff online and you're getting Bitcoin all month long, and then at the end of the month when you cash it out, if I bought a $500 TV, the amount of Bitcoin I would give you, call it on April 1st, April 15th, April 30th, it would be something different because Bitcoin is such a volatile value. It's a storage of value for sure. It's solid as a rock on that level. But the amount of value in it in comparison or in ratio of the dollar changes so dramatically that it's hard for it to be a currency in the true sense of trading value. So I send you the $500, you send me the TV. So we did the stablecoin. And then, because my history in tech, and primarily the last 10, 15 years of my career, was electronic health records and revenue cycle management. So what's that? An electronic health record application is what the doctor uses to type in your name and what he's doing to you or what she's doing to you and get it all recorded in a software system. That's saved down into what's called a claim. That claim sent to your insurance payer. That could be the federal government, a state government. It could be your private payer. Some of that may come out of your pocket in copay. But that system is what allows for a physician to record what he's done and send it over to the insurance company. So building on that and looking for a really powerful use case for our stablecoin, and most people might be familiar with cross-border payments and regular commerce. PayPal has a stablecoin. The Trump team launched a stablecoin in May of last year. So stablecoins are going to be a big part of the commerce engine here in the States as time goes by. But we got a little ahead of that curve and we decided to focus on healthcare. And the reason we did is when you think about what happens after you go see the doctor, he takes the chart note and turns it into a claim, sends it off to the payer. And again, that's federal, state, or private. Then they pay the doctor. And today, that's basically a wire or an ACH. There's maybe in small insurance companies that still send out checks, but primarily, there's a cycle there: patient, physician, payer. And, if you're not a big industry expert, you might not know it, but the healthcare industry itself is the largest single industry in the country. It's about a $5.9 trillion a year industry, which means, basically $1 out of $5 or $6 spent anywhere in the US is spent in the healthcare system. So we started to look at that, and we've, having had, in my experience, an intimate knowledge of the technology that allows that system to work, but also the business processes behind it, I was uniquely positioned to use my intellect, as Lance says, and design a similar business flow, but using blockchain-based technology. So, we can look at some of the big differences there. If you follow any of the business journals, or even sometimes it'll make it on to ABC, CNN, or whatever, almost every week, it seems like, at least at once a month, we have a major healthcare organization that's getting hacked. Whether it's United Healthcare or subsets of the federal government, Web 2 is just not anywhere near as safe as the what I call the cryptic wall that is provided to you on the blockchain, right? So that was kind of our first look at the security. Obviously, when it comes to healthcare, medical records are a big deal. So the immutability of storing records on the blockchain, that was another big, I think, point of interest. But to really get to the meat and potatoes of why within the industry it's so important to the physicians and to the insurance companies is because what's going on today. That doctor does what he does to you, and once he does it, he sends it off as a claim, and it takes roughly 30 days. It could be 60, 90, sometimes 120 days until he gets his money. And it's because of the back and forth process between the physician and the insurance company, right? So he says, well, I did this to Kirk and we want you to pay for it. And they say, well, you didn't dot the I, you didn't cross the T. I'm not sure Kirk's really covered for that. So they send it back. And then the doctor fixes the claim up and then he sends it back. And so it's back and forth and back and forth. And what we've focused on is taking that transaction process, which in the industry is called the adjudication or the settlement of that payment, and move it on to the ICP blockchain and use the smart contract canister model that allows for that adjudication to be done on chain. And when there's a conclusion of the smart contract, then the payment moves from the payer to the doctor. And of course, if you're doing any payment on a blockchain, you have to have a crypto. So that brings us back to the original stablecoin. So putting those things together and starting to build that product out, we were looking at multiple blockchains we could have chosen, and really even did some exploratory stuff with several of them. I won't name them all, but finally we settled on ICP. And for the folks that aren't like big blockchain tech people, I like to use the phrase ICP is like Amazon Cloud Services. It's a great place to move information, store information, and securely access information. So all of those elements have been going on, primarily over the last, 7-8 months, almost a year now. And you can see it at solumglobal.io. And for most people that have never seen a website hosted, if you will, on a blockchain, go to solumglobal.io and that'll be your first opportunity to see it. So that's a quick update on what we've been up to.
And George, we don't have, you have to have specific credentials. I put the link in Notion. You can pull it up, at least we can see the entry page. For the audience, sometimes I like to break it down in a way that simplifies. So not only have you guys come up with a solution that, of course, doctors ought to be jumping out of their seat for us.
Yeah, they are.
The U.S. healthcare system is clearly broken. Now, this is how you make the entry into this blockchain account. You have to have a specific set of credentials to get in, guys, so we can always show you the entry page. That's not the main website for Solum. The main website for Solum is solum.global, just so you know. But look, the healthcare industry is broken. We know that. There's so much fraud. And the costs and the explosive nature of the costs, $5.6 trillion spent in 2025, basically $16,500 per person, which is unbelievable because not everybody got healthcare services in 2025. It's 19.5% of GDP. Claim denials, over $262 billion in medical claims denied annually. Now, that being said, I don't know how much of this is fraud, but the fraud, waste, and abuse is estimated to be at least 3 to 10% of expenditures. So we're talking about potentially 150 to 500 billion a year. Plus, there's billions wasted on billing errors, duplicate claims, incorrect coding. And then the doctors end up having to, a lot of times, factor. They have to sell off their receivables because the traditional reimbursement delays are anywhere from 30 to 120 days on average. Yep. They are battling to get their money, and of course, it puts them in a bind. They've got overhead and expenses, and it's not easy. So they a lot of times, and Kirk, we can talk about how this would benefit them. They sell off their receivables for what, like a 30, 40, 50% decrease? I mean, the numbers are insane.
Yeah, it depends on, where they go, whether they, how deeply they get gouged. But if you imagine, back to that example of selling TVs, right? Imagine if Amazon, sold you a camera or a microphone or a television and they didn't get money from you for 90 days. How can you run a business like that? It's very difficult cash flow business for doctors. And so sometimes they do. They turn to the street, if you will, and they go out. And I know some guys in New York that will give you better rates than what some of those doctors are paying. But, once you get everything on chain and the insurance policy, which covers a very specific set of things for the patient, and the application that the doctor is recording that stuff, when you get it moving together and you're using AI to say, hey, this is what the doctor's doing, this is the policy, everybody knows right then and there whether it's paid for or not. right? So, and it's not just the doctors. So I got my oldest son a chocolate lab, and we got him, I don't know, maybe 9, 10 a year ago, maybe now. So he's large, but he's still a puppy. And then my third oldest son had a retainer, and he left it on the dining room table, ran outside to play, and the dog jumped up and ate the retainer. So I'm taking him this Friday to the orthodontist to get it replaced. And I said to the lady that was making the appointment, is this going to be covered by insurance? Because if not, replacement retainer in this $575. And, you know, I'm not a single mom, you know, working at Walmart, right? But I still think $575 is real money. And she said, I don't know. We'll have to check with our insurance coordinator. So I probably won't find out till I get there. There's case after case after case of people, particularly with United Health was in the news the other day. They call in, the doctor says, yeah, you've got coverage, you know, you're pre-authorized, if you will. They go in for the procedure, and 2 or 3 weeks later, they get a letter in the mail from the insurance company, and they owe $5,000 or $60,000 or whatever the bill is at the hospital, because the information that's swirling around between the doctor, the patient, and the payer is not centrally located and interoperable, is a phrase we like to use in the industry. And so it's like a big mystery. And that kind of stuff hurts the average bear, right? When you're out there, you know, trying to make a living, and, you know, medical expenses creep up, and you might go in for a procedure that you otherwise would not have had to do right then. So maybe it's something you could have put off till, you know, time was easier for you to pay. But you go in and you find out you're getting stuck with a big bill. So even from the consumer side, it's important to have a better information management system that allows all three parties, the patient, the physician, and the payer, to know what's going on before it happens, while it's happening, and after it's happening. So that's kind of one of our goals.
You know, and I know George has seen some of this. He's seen the bills come in. Of course, insurance covered it for his own operations and some family members. I've seen it with my mother. I took her one of her last big hospital bills, fed it through AI, and AI contended that the hospital was overcharging in numerous areas. I submitted it because I was trying to get her deductible down that she had to pay herself. Didn't go anywhere. I literally couldn't make any headway with the hospital, but yet here's AI using the exact billing for Medicare, and they are identifying multiple things that shouldn't have been on the bill, that should have been corrected, that were overcharged by the hospital. Now, why Medicare paid the majority of them, and of course, that still left the deductible. I was just hoping to get a discount on the deductible. You know, people are frustrated. They look at the stuff in the healthcare industry, even on prescription drugs, and they think, my God, why am I paying this much when I can buy this in Mexico for pennies on the dollar? We continue to pay the research and development side of it. Donald Trump's tried to make some headway. RFK Jr.'s tried to make some headway. Some happen. Of course, we've seen some changes in insulin, but it's not enough. And the federal government's got some of the big problems. And then you add in things like data breaches and security risks. There were hundreds of breaches annually with the millions of healthcare records get exposed. The 2024 Change Healthcare ransomware attack caused $1.5 billion in damages and affected 193 million people.
That's, I mean, think about that.
You know, so you tell me, what about that? Does this, some of the stuff you're working on, fix some of those issues?
Well, let's step back to the AI for a second, right? It's a critical component of what we call scrubbing. And right now today, so my call center in Tacoma had 58 people in it, right? And so what would happen was, you know, using my son and his retainer and the dentist and Blue Cross Blue Shield, a person gets a phone call from the dentist's office and they say, hi, this is, you know, Jennifer over at Dr. Orth's office, and we'd like to check on a patient. So the other person on the phone says, okay, what's the patient's name? Well, it's Jack Judah, St. John's, and here's his policy number. And they say, hold on a minute. And they come back and they say, yeah, he's covered, right? So with AI, you can do all of that in a millisecond. So it's great to have it from the patient side. It's good for the doctor to know what he's doing when he's in the middle of procedures. But it's also really important for the payers. A lot of your audience might remember Elon did a Doge review of Medicaid. Medicare, and found $1 gazillion in fraud, waste, and abuse. Well, we had one client, the Bankers Association, and we ran $858 million worth of claims through our AI engine that they had already paid. So we knew what the claims came in and we knew what they paid out. And we were able to identify $52 million and like $300,000 in claims they shouldn't have paid. And it's not all, fraud, but in this particular case, we found that there was a group of orthopedic therapist type physicians in the state of Georgia. And they knew that if one of these banker associates came in, the policy would cover a cancer panel. So you'd go in, you get an MRI on your elbow or your shoulder, or X-rays on your elbow or your shoulder for tennis or something, and they would look at your insurance and they'd say, "Oh, this is the Bankers Association policy, so we'll go ahead and swab you for a full cancer panel." So when the claim got to the insurance company, they looked at the patient, they looked at the policy, and they said, well, they're covered for the X-ray, the MRI, and the cancer panel. But our system was smart enough to say, why is a physical therapist doing cancer panels on patients? It's what you call out of necessity. And so we flagged it, and that's turned into a fraud report. And it turned out that the laboratory salesman had told all the physical therapists, if you run this test, we'll pay you a $385 kickback for every test you send in. Right? So it's right on that borderline between blatant fraud and just out of necessity abuse, because the doctor did do the swab and the patient was covered, but why the hell do it other than to get the kickback? So when you start talking about peeling back that kind of money from the cost that the insurance companies have, then I would hope that the cost of healthcare can go down for everyone individually.
Did you say, Lance, hold on. Did you say the physical therapist was ordering labs and stuff?
Yeah, cancer panels. And cancer panels are like $3,800.
That's weird, because as far as I know, where I live in Jersey, physical, only doctors can order panels and stuff. Licensed, not therapists. They can recommend it to the doctor and have to do it. That's a different story, because they give reports on their physical therapy. But yeah, there you go, more fraud.
Well,
and you hope that we can lower the cost. People have gotten to the point where they can't afford health insurance because they're getting these excessive increases. Most recently, we've seen the Leering Center, autism centers, hospice care. So much fraud. A lot of it seems to be foreign controlled. We've seen Somalians, we've seen Middle Easterners involved in it.
Yeah. They're making
lots of arrests out in California for this fraud. If you were going to put a number, Kirk, just for the audience, for every $1 million in billing for medical, using your system, what do you think it's going to, show on that $1 million? How much fraud? Is it likely to be 3 to 10%? Is it likely to exceed 10%?
Well, I mean, we can do a macro, and it's probably going to be 12, 15. I think Elon found 18% in Medicare alone. But then you're going to find, your trenches where it's much higher. You mentioned Minnesota. DeSantis is the governor here in Florida. He's a Cuban American, and he's just came out with Dr. Oz, who was in Miami, and he noticed. I can't remember the type of service. It wasn't the learning center, but it was a particular. Oh my gosh, I can't say it. A particular type of medical service that was 8 times higher in the greater Miami area than anywhere else in the country. And so right away, it's fraud, right? So there's organized fraud out there. And, I know you guys are, freedom-loving American patriots, and we don't like Big Brother, looking over our shoulder. We certainly don't like them looking on our laptop and our iPhones and stuff. But this is one of those cases where technology can be a sleuth and come in and find shit that's wrong and catch it. And, it's a balance to try to decide, where to let that dog hunt and where to hold it back for personal liberties. But when you think about, the amount of fraud and how much it's costing our country, if you just took the fraud back, you could pay, what do we have, 40 trillion in national debt? You could pay that national debt off, probably in 40 years. I mean, it's a ton of money. I think it's 1.3 trillion a year in fraud, right? So it's outrageous how much crap's going on wrong. And, we would like to be a part of kind of peeling that back and making things better.
So Dr. Oz, I just looked it up. He said in Florida it was the durable medical equipment.
Durable medical equipment, that's what it
DME, yeah.
Yeah,
Fraud.
right. So apparently everybody in Miami needs a little something extra. And it's just was so out of control. But those are the kind of flags that systems like the one we're talking about would be able to catch these anomalies. And then you drill down a little bit and you see what they can do. But something that I want to say to add to it, I'm just checking the time, is that the thing about it that we love so much at Solum is that there's this gigantic industry. I mean, it's massive, and we have an opportunity to make it better across the board by implementing blockchain-based technologies, blockchain-based securities, blockchain-based adjudication, blockchain-based file management, and blockchain-based payments. And if that segment of the industry, and I tell our investors and I tell everybody this all the time, I'm not the only person in the world that understands both the blockchain and old school US medical system. So it's coming, whether Solum becomes the Amazon, if you will, of this space, or we're the MySpace and there becomes a Facebook. What I'm talking about now, and all the medical records and the whole ball of wax moving on chain, is absolutely going to happen. I think it's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. So we're excited about that because it drives, the whole blockchain space. It drives the use of crypto. The more crypto that is used in the real world, the more valuable crypto will become. That'll help our friends at XRP and Bitcoin and Ethereum and Doge and all the other ones. So it's a really exciting time to be part of a movement that is changing the way the U.S. economy works.
So just for the audience, just to kind of clarify this. So for doctors, for physicians, healthcare providers, you're talking about one of the biggest benefits is instant cash flow. No more factoring, no more losing that money. The providers are going to get paid immediately at the point of service. And Kirk, stop me at any point if any of this I've got wrong, but I just want to try to put it in simple terms for the audience. So and that's going to be via the SGUSD stablecoin. Instead of waiting the 30 to 120 days, instead of having to factor and lose money, there's going to be real-time documentation and adjudication. A doctor documents a procedure directly in the electronic healthcare wallet. Smart contracts instantly match it against the payer's rules. It's no more back and forth. No more rejected claims. No more you walk into the office and you don't know whether they're covering the retainer, they're not covering the retainer. Everybody's had that happen where they think they're not going to get a bill, and then here comes the bill because you thought it was covered and it's not.
Yep.
Fewer denials, less billing errors for sure. AI is going to scan through the electronic healthcare wallet, the records in real time. They're going to catch mistakes, like upcoding, which is a standard, form of Medicare and Medicaid fraud in particular. Duplicate claims, it would identify that immediately. Missing info, it would tell you even before it was submitted, it would make you make the correction. So again, stopping the back and forth, because time is money. And I think that the radical impact for doctors, I can't imagine what the admin reduction on an average staff. What do you think the reduction in staff is if they implement the Solum Global Electronic Healthcare Wallet and this system? Would you assume that if they normally needed, 5 people doing billing, are they going to cut that in half or even maybe less?
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a second without getting too nerdy on the audience, okay? So the way it works in healthcare is all physicians, like I said, they start off by getting a chart note that gets turned into a claim. Once it's turned into a claim, the physician hands it off to the administrative team, and that's called the billing department. If you're big enough, like Johns Hopkins or some of the big healthcare, Cleveland Clinic, they call that the revenue cycle management division. And most physicians and physician groups and hospital groups outsource their billing, okay? And the norm is 5 or 6 points. So if you're a doctor and you do $1 million this month in outbound claims, you're paying your billing department $50,000 or $60,000 to go collect that money for you. Whether it's, like say it's a one doctor practice and the wife, let's say, is the doctor and the husband is the office manager, or oftentimes you'll see it the other way, but it's kind of like a two-person show. It still costs about that much of their total income to go and collect the money that's owed to them. So when you look at a billing department, right? And in my particular case, we had a call center in Tacoma that had 58 people in it. And all they did all day long was fight with insurance companies and then tell doctors how to tweak the claim and then send it back to the insurance company and fight to get the money. And that's what we did for a living. If the Solum product was implemented there in Tacoma, of those 58 employees, I could absolutely let 30 of them go, maybe as many as 40, right? So it's going to drastically reduce the overhead cost as well as the overhead time, meaning the time doctors wait to see it. Something that might make it easier for the audience to understand because they can relate to this. You're on Priceline.com. You're going to buy a airline ticket. You put in your first name, your last name, your billing address, your card number, the 3-digit code, but you forget to put in your zip code, right? So you go down to the bottom and you hit submit. What does it do? It doesn't run your card. It automatically flips you back up, and there's a little red asterisk right above the zip code field, right? And if you're like me and you're dyslexic, you may have to go back and do that several times prior to getting it all right. And once it's all right, you let it go through, right? So this is the type of thing that this Solum electronic health wallet does for the physician. And it allows him to see live as he's going down through his they're called CPT codes, is what they put in to denote what the doctor's doing to you. It goes down live and just kind of makes sure everything's put in properly. And, to say a good thing about doctors, right? They don't want to do something to a patient and surprise them. So, I had a friend that had a dermatology appointment, and he just, he had some stuff that needed to get frozen off here and there. We're in South Florida, everybody goes in, and his dermy and his staff were actually very good. And they said, hey, you had a $5,500 a year limit on freezes and zaps and all that stuff. And if I take these next couple of things off of you, you're going to go over that. But it's November. Your policy re-ups in January, and these aren't even anything to worry about. They're just little brown spots on the back of your arm. Why don't we just wait till January and your insurance will cover it? But if I do it now, you're going to go over their coverage and you're going to have to pick up the rest of the bill. And so, the whole process becomes smarter and more efficient. And in my opinion, it becomes fairer for everyone.
Yeah. And, fair would be great because I don't think anybody feels like that about the healthcare industry. I guess let me ask you this, because, this has been in the news so much, the amount of fraud, these autism centers and hospices. A lot of it's been linked to Somalians, but there are many other foreign individuals involved in that industry. They've recognized they could make a tremendous amount of money by committing fraud. Dr. Oz has been exposing it. RFK Jr. has been exposing it. Of course, Elon Musk did a great job exposing it. We haven't seen a tremendous amount of fixes or accountability yet. We're seeing some arrests, but not at the scale we need to see. We're not seeing the money get clawed back. If you could have a direct dialogue with RFK Jr. and Dr. Oz, what would you tell them? Using current events, using what's in the news cycle about Medicare and Medicaid fraud, using states like Newsom and other governors like Waltz. They clearly have knowledge of this, and they continue to go on because there's some stuff that you guys can do in here, even predictive analysis, which is something that seems to be lacking, where they didn't even realize that the number of autism centers exceeded the numbers across from a comparison to the entire country. That all of a sudden every Somalian born had autism, it seemed like, and that's how they were doing the billing. So you've got some predictive AI, you've got a way to fix it. If you had right now a pitch and you could say, I need a meeting with RFK Jr. and I need a meeting with Dr. Oz, and here's why. How would you portray that? And what could you say to them? Look, you guys are looking for a solution. we've already built the solution. Take it from there.
Yeah, so there's, what I would say to them is, I used a term earlier in the show, interoperability. And it's getting a data set that is not only medical, but it's business registrations. It's the name of the owners of the businesses. It's relevant account information and the information, where it's coming from, where it's going, how the time and time stamp of when these businesses are started, how quickly they grow. I'd be looking at that from a Medicare, Medicaid perspective to look at new incoming claimants and those sorts of things, and put all of that together so that we would be able to coordinate what we would look for would be called anomalies, right? And you see that, and the concentration of durable products in Miami, or the concentration of those particular centers in the Minneapolis area. These are easily flagged to see what is happening there. And what I think is going to happen, I talked about the next 3 to 5 years, and I have to go back quite a few years, but back when most of us were kids, we would remember going to the doctor's office, and behind the reception stand, there was like all the manila envelopes, and you were filling things out on a clipboard. And prior to the computer revolution of the healthcare industry, which we were, pioneers of, the government had something called the Electronic Health Act. And this was literally an act of Congress, and I won't go too deep into it, but the simple way to say it is, the government said to all the doctors, you got to start using computers to record what you're doing to your patients so we can manage all this stuff better. And that's what led to MedTech. That's what led to my, building out the first ever electronic health record system in the cloud, and all of those things. That was that part of my career. I think we're going to see, if I was in with Dr. Oz, I'd want Trump in the room too, because he's such a hard-ass businessman. We need a modification to the Electronic Health Act to demand that the systems include things like AI scrubbing, fraud alerts, and blockchain-based technology, because again, all that stuff becomes immutable, and you can access it and manage it. So that's what I would tell him, is the whole system has to be overhauled to make it better, faster, and smarter.
In real world, in implementing what we're doing over here at Solum Global, what do you think? How long would it take? Let's say that you had the support of the administration. How quickly could you put a stop, at least to the fraud contingent, the overpayment, the abuse, the misuse of the system? How quickly do you think the integration could occur if Solum Global tomorrow had the contract? Would it take 6 months to implement, 8 months, 12 months? What do you think the real application? Because of course, people want an immediate answer. They're pissed off that some of these people that have committed this fraud, they're living in Beverly Hills, they're rolling around in Ferraris. Nick Shirley did an amazing job of exposing them, but he's not the only one. They're now finding fraud. George has mentioned New Jersey. We've talked about Colorado. Of course, George predicted what's going on in California, said, look, it's going to make Minnesota look like nothing.
Right.
It's going to be a much bigger issue out there. And he's right. Yep. How quickly could Solum at least start fixing where the theft gets reduced? Because, of course, that's an immediate result for the federal government and the taxpayers.
Sure, absolutely. So it would be, before I even answer that, the federal government of the United States of America is the largest healthcare payer in the world by far, right? We spend a lot of money, and the federal government pays for a lot of people here in the States. So it's a really, really big organization. So I would think it would take us, anywhere from 3 to 7 months to get everything totally set up. But once it was turned on, we could move at the speed of data coming in. So we would analyze historic data and then start analyzing new data with every claim, every new registrant. So anybody that opened up a clinic and then said, hey, we want to be able to bill the federal government. There's a process for doing that. Whether you're selling medical parts or whether you're doing healthcare, therapy, whether you're a surgery center, anybody that wants to bill the federal government has to go through a process. So we would be able to see who's on that list now. And then every time someone new came on that list, and we'd have our Life 2 AI system look at all of that stuff and flag it immediately in real time.
So
So
Do you
really,
think within 12 months the U.S. government could see a massive savings if they were
absolutely.
using the?
Yeah.
That's what I think.
I put it like this: Elon identified what happened in the past. Solum is going to prevent it from happening in the future.
And you guys are really, from what I can see, you guys are head and shoulders above everybody else that's attempting. A lot of people are just starting to think about a solution like this. You guys have already completed the solution for the most part. With of course, you've got the AI firm Life2 Inc. You also this partnership with Definity. That's big news. Let's talk about both of those, because the strategic partnership with Infinity, of course, this is a big deal. ICP is a big deal. Explain the relevance of that, and maybe also Life2 in the time we've got left, Kirk.
Well, the simple one is the Life2 ones. The guys there built a great engine. It's been used in industries like telecom. It's been used in industries like shipping. Like I believe it was FedEx, maybe it was UPS. Used the Life2 engine, and we're able to predict upcoming accidents from UPS drivers. And it's a really cool story of if you ever.
So the engine's proven. This isn't something.
Oh yeah, it's proven. We've done a couple of 3 projects already. Like I mentioned, the Bankers Association. That was the AI engine that we ran that through.
What was the reaction from the Bankers Association when you showed them what you had identified?
Well, when the meeting came where we huddled back up, we'd already sent the report. And when it started, I think it was the COO who said it, was like, listen, guys, we just want to make sure everyone remembers that we're under an NDA here. Because they had paid out almost $53 million in claims out of $858 million paid out that they should not have paid out. So they were caught with egg on their face. And basically,
and for the shareholders in that company, that's a massive number in net profit that would have gone to the bottom line had they not made the mistake of paying it out.
Totally a transformative number, which is why we expect to get rapid adoption from the payer side. Once they understand, and we were talking about the medical billing of the doctor having people, my call center, where we were fighting on behalf of the doctor to get the money. But the other half of that equation is the insurance companies have call centers full of people that say, no, we can't pay that. And then they say, okay, you fixed it, we'll pay that. That side of the house is going to lose a ton of overhead as well, because I don't want to put anybody out of a job that's a biller, but they're basically cooked. It's over. We don't need them anymore, right? We've got AI. We don't need you to look at the claim to decide whether it's right, wrong, or should be paid. That's already been done by the system, so we don't need you anymore. And I'm sorry for that, but from an efficiency standpoint, it's going to make everything better in the industry. So that's an important thing. But over to Definity, right? It's like I said, there's a lot of blockchains in the world. Like most of the audience has probably heard of at least Bitcoin. They've probably heard of Ethereum. Maybe they've heard of Polygon or Polkadot or one of the other ones. But very few people have heard of ICP. But it stands for Internet Computer Protocol, right? And it's a very unique blockchain when it comes to the type of information management and movement and storage that is important to us. I don't know if you've ever sent Bitcoin to anybody and noticed that there's a lag. Sometimes it can be longer and sometimes it's shorter, but it's not really instant settlement, right? But ICP, their smart contracts conclude and transactions are done in like 2 seconds. And it's a very unique network. In fact, the Swiss government, when we were at Davos, maybe a month and a half ago, they announced that in Switzerland, I meant to say that in Switzerland, they set up what's called an ICP subnet. So this is like a independent chain, right, from the mother network. And that's the type of thing we see coming here in the States, and that's why we call it the Sovereign Health Cloud. We envision this being an implementation of the number of nodes necessary to have an independent blockchain, and the only data on it will be medical, right? So it'll be the payers that have their wallets and their data, the physicians that have their electronic health record systems, and then of course the patient with their own personal history and payment gateway. So getting support from them, going to meet the founders. Dom there is the chief science officer. Everybody recognizes he's basically a genius technology guy. He's from Europe, but he spends quite a bit of time in San Francisco, where they have an office, and his daughter goes to school there. She broke her leg, and she was literally coming home from the doctor the day we met with them in Zurich. And he said the same thing I said about my kid with the retainer. Is like, yeah, I don't know whether we're covered, what we're covered for, how much it's going to cost me. And so he really, it hit him kind of personally. And, he's got a big whiteboard, and I had multiple color markers, and we're drawing all kinds of workflows. And, he and I just hit it off, and he's like, yeah, this is something special. And I think one of the quotes, he said, we didn't have healthcare in mind when we were building ICP, but it's the perfect platform for their solution. So that's been a really, really important step in our development, to settle on a chain and a partner.
Yeah, and I think that's such an important thing, because, of course, that's the foundation of what you guys have been trying to establish.
Yep.
Look, in the time we got left, Kirk, I don't know, maybe throw out there to the audience, I know you guys are still taking some early investing. I don't want to step on any of the SEC rules, so I got to be careful about what I say. We always say nothing on this show is financial advice. Always talk to your own financial advisors, and you have to be accredited investors. But we want you to follow Solum Global on X. Of course, the Crypto Power Hour, myself, G. Ballantine, myself, Lance Menachin, of course, the Big Mig Show. But let's talk about where can they get more information. You've had some recent press covering a bunch of stuff. We know there's press releases out there. Kind of give them so they can, if they want to dig in, what are the opportunities? Is there still some opportunities for early stage investors in this project?
Well, yeah. I mean, we closed out our first round, and now we've just opened up a second round. So that is available. You can go to solum.global, and you can get some information there, and we'd be happy to engage with anyone that wants to take a closer look. We've got a private placement memorandum and a full, financial model and everything put together. I will say one of the exciting things, I forgot to mention this when we were talking about ICP, but maybe your audience has heard what a digital asset treasury, right? A DAT. So a lot of companies are starting to put together digital asset treasuries. Michael Saylor at MicroStrategies is probably the most famous guy out there doing it with Bitcoin.
And we have discussed that on the show very often. So hopefully they get it, but assume that there's people here, new listeners, new subscribers that may not have seen those episodes, Kirk. So explain it from just the very bare bones of a simple newbie to where you guys are at on this. Because I think this is incredibly intriguing what you've done here.
Yeah, so the idea is that when you're raising capital or earning revenue from a company, you take a portion of it and you buy a cryptocurrency and you park it on the side and you let it increase in value. I mentioned Michael Saylor and MicroStrategies. And basically what he did is he started a company, he sells stock in the company, then the company gets money, and then he takes that money and he buys Bitcoin with it. And Bitcoin is historically, generally, Bitcoin from where he purchased it has gone up in value. So the company is worth more money. So he sells more stock and he gets more money from selling the stock and he buys more Bitcoin. And so it's been a hell of a model. But there are other cryptos that people buy. And, the guys at ICP had multiple people from Wall Street. I'm talking about some of the big names on Wall Street had come to them and say, hey, we want to do a digital asset treasury with ICP as a token. But the ethos and the culture at ICP was such that they're like, look, we don't want to be part of a Wall Street play where people, just use the sale of stock as a backdoor to buy our coin. And what we want to do is find somebody, and I didn't even know they were saying this because I didn't know them last year. They said, we want to find somebody that has a value proposition for our network. And then we would be okay being a partner in a DAT, right? Or helping to create a DAT. And when we came along and said, look, we want to move our whole enchilada onto the ICP network and be partners with you guys, both at Definity and the whole community, this is a direction we want to go, then they were a little more comfortable. So part of the proceeds and part of the money that we use raising, part of the money we raise, we're going to use buying the ICP token. And, it's like a lot of other crypto, it's been beat down in the last few months, but we're happy I want to be careful how I say that. We're conscious that it's at a low point when we're buying it now, and we do expect it, to go back up. So all of this stuff is part and parcel with what's going on in corporate development. To kind of wrap up with my what did you call me? Kid Santa, conspiracy Santa, or my mindset. I'm building a product, but Solum has a team of people that are helping to build the company. And there's very, very smart people that all have nice haircuts and suits and everything like that, and are the bankers and investment bankers and that whole part of the organization. And this is a strategic decision that as we're growing and ICP grows, then, we grow together.
And I love the vision. I love the alliances you've made, and I hope Wall Street is able to grasp it. Of course, they're with regulation, the Clarity Act and the Genius Act. Hopefully, those acts will come through without a whole lot of modifications. Of course, the banking system is trying to control, returns, and whether it comes down to staking or other rewards, they want to minimize it because they know they're in serious trouble when everything goes to the chain. I truthfully believe that they're going to be in a horrible spot regardless, because I think that the public wants a change. They're tired of the 32% high interest rate credit cards, and they're tired of the 1% interest on money market accounts. You get both ends of the spectrum, and they're stuck in the middle. Well, listen, first of all, thanks for coming on. I know you've been slammed. We appreciate you taking the time out. You guys have been so busy working on it. For people that want to find out more, of course, head over to solum.global, follow the Crypto Power. And listen, hit the follow button on here. We know we're getting tens of thousands of views. You guys seem to be creeping on that follow button. We're trying to grow the Crypto Power, our follower base, the viewer base, fantastic. Share it far and wide. I recommend you take this live link, go dump it into Dr. Oz's channel on X. Go jump it into RFKs and say, listen, you need to listen to these guys. They might have a solution for a lot of the fraud in the United States and a lot of things that could fix the Medicare and Medicaid system. So take that live link, share it, grow your own social media. George will be doing short form content. We're on, of course, we're back on YouTube finally. That's a work in progress, but we're on Rumble and Locals. YouTube, you put out too much medical information and they want to call it medical disinformation. Sure. I don't know if they're working for the banking system. I'm not sure that they even understand crypto over there, but it is what it is. So listen, thank you guys for tuning in. George, anything else you need to share with the audience? We got our regular show again, 7 a.m. on Friday. We've got a great education piece George has been working on the last couple
Lance,
of days.
I've been tallying up the votes in the chat, and I got to say, Kirk, you lost. But I'm going to double check it, and I'm going to double check it just because we're not Dominion.
We don't want to be accused of being Dominion voting over
Dominion.
here.
He's using Dominion voting.
This is a free and fair system. Kirk is committed. We'll lock it in. Next time you see him, I think it's going to be Peaky Blinders next time you see him.
My AI bots are just now starting to vote, so I'm sure.
Yeah,
we'll have to.
Well, good luck with that.
Actually, they won't because I put a blocker on that. So because this is a real authentic show.
I have a D blocker that outblocked your blocker.
It not working. Sorry, it's not working because you're not getting any. You got 2 votes out of 50 so far, 60. So
yeah, it's ugly.
Just saying, man.
Again, I'll be down there. I'll get on the plane. I'll bring the clippers. I'm ready to go to work. And maybe we can auction off the beer.
No,
you don't want to auction off.
You're not. No, you're not going over there to clip or nothing. We're gonna send it to a professional barber, bro.
You're probably right. Well, look, I do a pretty good job with my head, but of course he doesn't want to end up like I look. All right, listen, thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate all the support. Get over there, follow us, hit the subscribe button. If you could do the paid subscription, of course, we always appreciate that. It's only $5 a month. Any Rumble Rant tips, and of course, George is still looking to collect 10 Bitcoin in that Rumble wallet. So feel free, reach into that for you guys that are holding. Michael Saylor, if you're watching the show, feel free, dig in. You can throw us a couple of Bitcoin. Maybe you can turn us into Bitcoin maxis. Who knows? All right, listen, we appreciate you guys tuning in. George, last words on the way out of the gate.
We'll see you at 11 o'clock for the Big Make Show. If not, you have a blessed day. Later, guys.
See ya.
Are you ready to stand up for your community and support your local sheriff? Join the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association and become a vital member of the Sheriff's Citizens Posse. At CSPOA.org, we empower citizens like you through weekly webinars, arming you with the knowledge to back your constitutional county sheriff. Together, we can uphold our Constitution and ensure liberty and justice for all. Your community needs you now more than ever. Visit CSPOA.org and join the Sheriff's Citizens Posse today. Make a difference. Stand for freedom. That's CSPOA.org. Your country, your fight, your future.
What if you could predict your financial future? And what if you could trade on it? Introducing Block Trust IRA, the future in your hands. An astonishing 88,000 millionaires were created last year from the Bitcoin boom, and you could be next. Block Trust IRA is the only crypto management firm powered by AI-driven strategies, ranked #1 in the world by Bitcoin Magazine. The Block Trust IRA platform is built for everyone, from first-time buyers to seasoned investors. Predictive AI technology that was once only reserved for insiders and elites is now available to you. It's time to leave the old buy and hold strategies behind. Your assets are protected with military-grade security, offline cold storage, and $200 million in insurance. Visit BlockTrustIRA.com to book your free consultation and ask how to claim up to $2,500 in deposit bonuses today. Bitcoin changed the game. AI changes the strategy.
Hi folks, I'm here today to introduce you to the Prepper Bar from PrepperBar.com, the most unique precious metals product we have seen in a long time. These 62-gram bars are perforated and easily broken down into your choice of 3 different sizes to fit a multitude of needs. Whether it be from asset protection from inflation, economic turmoil, or its unique utility for barter and trade, the Prepper Bar makes a perfect gift for all the precious metal lovers out there. Exclusively made here in the USA and selling out fast. Available in both gold and silver, these slim Prepper Bars fit neatly in your wallet, and their utility enables use in any situation.
Forged through rigorous training and honed by the finest instructors on earth, these canine units serve beside our nation's warriors as they fight to preserve what we cherish. When these warriors complete their duty, the Warrior Dog Foundation provides them with a home deserving of the service they've given us all. At our state-of-the-art kennels, they receive rehabilitation and care suitable for heroes, because that's what they are. Be a part of giving them a future today. Visit WarriorDogFoundation.org.